What's good? What's good? What's good? Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Chronic OGs. I'm that boy they call Big Tone. Tonight's episode is something dear to my heart, and that's basketball, hoops basketball, especially at the high school and college level. So I got three of my closest friends that all represent each one of those dynamics. I got Coach Jay Daniels, who owns Arizona Grassroots, who's a prominent Adidas Gold Gauntlet AAU program in the Phoenix, Arizona area. I got Coach Rodg Stewart, who's a high school coach in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and has worked with some of the most known college and pro players from Southern California. And then I have Coach Reggie Anderson. This is my guy right here, who's the assistant AD at Young Harris College, which is the D2 college in North Georgia. What's good, fellas? How's everybody doing?
Good.
So so Raj and Jay are in the Phoenix area. Coach Anderson, Coach Reggie is probably 2 hours north of Atlanta, and I'm a little bit in Atlanta as well. So trying to give everybody a dynamic as to where everyone is. So tonight's discussion is going to be the comparisons, the pros, cons, and the dynamics between AAU basketball, how it relates to high school basketball, and how that relates to college basketball, and some of the things that's going on in all three, and see if we can connect the dots a little better. Because I think right now the system is kind of, for lack of a better word, fragmented. And having three guys that's in each one of those, maybe we can just point some light to everyone. So I'm gonna ask a couple questions, and then after that, we can just get right into any type of dialogue or anything that someone else wants to add. But my first question is: do you guys feel that the need for exposure has lessened the high school college experience? Jay, I'll start with you.
I would say yeah. Simply because just I guess now we're in a one and done era, and so now guys are fixated on, okay, let's get to school, let's play 1 year, let's try to get out. If the situation doesn't work out, let's maybe transfer, hit the transfer portal, get to another program. So I think like when I was actually in college, I think they implemented the one and done rule. When I was in college, guys were still able to come out of high school, and at that time, from my opinion, guys guys stayed usually longer than 1 year. Guys would stay maybe 2 years if they were an elite guy, and if they were, if they're super elite, if they're really really good, they might leave a year early. But guys were
Mm-hmm.
staying 2, 3, and even 4 years, and NBA teams were rewarding a guy for staying 4 years, and then now he averaged 5 points his freshman year, 10 points his sophomore year, 15 points, and now he's averaging 19, and now he's conference player of the year. NBA teams were rewarding guys and drafting them lottery guys that were doing that. Now, guys that are doing that, they're saying, well, why didn't you do that your first year? So I think that it may be also, it may be somewhat the need for development, but I think it's also the fact that NBA teams repeatedly draft guys 1 year out of high school. And so we got to put the, 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 the biggest blame on the NBA franchises, because they're the ones that are rewarding guys with $1 million contracts 1 year after high school. So kids can only chase the money. I mean, what can they do?
Right. I always thought that um, I would never turn down a 4-year college point guard. Man, I've never run a pro franchise in my life, but it's just hard to. I mean, a 4-year, 3-year starter like you know what I'm talking about,
Brunson,
Jalen Brunson, right?
Brunson, yeah.
And a point guard, 3-4 years in, I need that guy. So if you want to have that one and done philosophy with um, with your bigs, that's cool. But as far as what at the point guard position, I would never. I would always look at that. Coach Reg, what about you? How do you feel? Do you feel like it's the high school experience is being lessened because of the need for exposure?
Yeah, I agree with Coach Daniels. I mean, now it's off of, like he said, NBA now reward these guys off of potential, not what they are.
Right,
The one and done. Hey, what he can be, and where he's projected to be in 3 or 4 years versus, like Coach was saying, let them develop in college, and see who really develops and who doesn't. Um, so, I don't, and, you were right about that 4 year point guard, but, like I said, the NBA just went on potential now, so, I think that really hurts the game because, you know, a lot of times we have our young players have a false view of who they are and where their game is,
right, right.
because they see, oh, this guy got drafted and I'm just as good as him, or when that is simply not the case.
I I I, I think Jay has a good point because when you draft that kid and that kid comes in and he doesn't work out, everyone blames the kid.
Yep,
Well, it's not the kid's fault that you guys told him he was a lottery pick. So what is he supposed to do when his mom living, they got a 1 bedroom efficiency apartment in downtown Chicago? What do you expect him to do? It's not his
yep.
fault, but it's always the player's fault. That's why I'm always going to be pro player. Hey, Raj, are you with us or no?
Yeah, I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Raj must not be with us. I circle back with him.
I, I
So I
think I
got
think it,
Yeah,
is he
can
there?
you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me? I'm here.
No, he's not there. Um, what
Jake,
what
can
do
you hear
you
me?
guys feel would is the best option for a kid who can play, right? Kid can play, but because of the transfer portal, is not getting recruited out of high school. What would you tell that kid, Coach Reg?
it depends on where he is in high school. Is he junior, sophomore, or
Senior coming
just
out, coming.
he's a
Well,
senior coming out?
no junior in the junior year, just finished junior year, in between junior and senior year.
Okay, well, he's got to get himself one. You know, he's really got to get himself somewhere in front of people on the circuit. You know, um, i.e., get on an elite AAU program, not a mom and dad AAU program.
Right, a
You know,
money grab
oh, I'm
practice.
sorry, I had to put that in there.
Nah, his
You know,
program legit. His program legit.
huh?
Jay's
Oh, I wasn't
Jay's
talking about coach. I know he
we
legit
on
because
a
because he,
no
yeah,
offense
yeah,
taken because we on
yeah,
the
yeah.
Adidas circuit. I
No, that's yeah, 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 yeah.
So you was
He
talking
tried
about
to
me.
start something. He tried to start stuff. He tried
You
to
was talking
start
about
stuff.
me,
Yeah,
Coach
I'm messing with
Red.
you.
Hey, I ain't started no AAU program. I used
But
to
I'm
work
just
for
saying,
Coach J. I used to work
yeah.
for
But
Coach
I,
J.
but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's where he's got to link up, with like I say, a legitimate circuit AAU program. You know, and then that's a matter of just being seen by the right people. You know.
Hey, Jay. Before you answer that, let's go back. Raj, my first question was, do you feel like the high school basketball experience is being lessened due to the need for exposure?
So do I feel like the high school experience is being lessened? I would say to a fault, unless you have a culture built at that school that you're at. I know for kids that are playing for my old coach at Corona Centennial, Jared McCain, for instance, he's playing at Duke. That kid was not in a rush to get out of high school to go to Duke because the experience and the culture that they have over there. So if you're in good hands in a good place where basketball is being taught the right way, you have a family. Jared McCain could go one and done if he wanted to. I talked to him the other day. He's not in a rush to get to the league because he's in it for the right reasons. So if you have a strong backbone and the right people behind you, I don't think it is. But far and too often nowadays, as a high school coach, I don't think a lot of high school coaches are doing it for the right reasons. So a lot of kids, a lot of times it is lessons because kids the coaches don't care about them. Relationships not there. Families really aren't into it no more for them. They're all about the money. So if you're in a good situation, I would say no. But if you're in a situation where, the culture's not set, then 100% they're trying to get out of there and go do what's next for them.
The follow-up question was, what do you feel is the best option? Then Jay, we're gonna come to you. What do you feel is the best option for a kid who can actually play, but that's not heavily recruited in between that junior and senior year? What do you feel some options would be for that kid to start thinking about?
That are pretty good. That's not getting recruited.
Yeah. I mean, due to the fact that the transfer portal is the way it is, with transfer portal and NIL, it's like the Wild Wild West. So kids coming out of high school is getting crap to them. So,
well, I go back to, you know me for a long time, Tony. Everything I do is based off relationships. So I think you need to find another high school that his coach is going to do his damn job. There's schools, there's places for everybody to go to. Part of the problem is coaches are just too lazy. They don't want to pick up the phone and help these kids out. And I think to start the conversation off today with the whole AAU and high school thing, I think most good high schools or great high schools have somebody on the AAU staff on their staff. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone. Where we're having the AAU coach that behind the scenes knows all the college coaches, can get them in the tournaments when they need to be. But you also have the high school side of it where they're just working together. And most top schools in the country have an AAU coach or somebody on their bench that sees it from that aspect as well.
Jay, what about you? Do you think it's being lessened? High school experience?
The high school experience?
As far as because a lot of kids these days, when they know they can go to a Mount Verde or one of these places like that, winning a state title isn't as important. That type of stuff isn't as important. And that's what I mean by that.
I would say that just from somebody that's kind of went through it, I think that it has been lessened, but I think it's been lessened to the point of, or for the reason of, a lot of these coaches have mishandled the product. Now there's some good coaches, some good high school coaches out there, but I think that those coaches that really care at the high school level are definitely a minority. There's a lot more coaches at the high school level that don't really care about, don't really care about winning, don't really care about success, don't really care about developing kids. I joke with guys every year because I got a post that comes up on my Facebook, right? And I had a kid that he ended up number 2 behind Amari at McClintock in scoring. So all time at 1,700 points in high school. He couldn't make a post-entry pass. So every year, I noticed that when guys come out to me, guys can't make that post-entry pass. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so they've been with this coach since October for 5 days a week, 10 to 15 hours a week, and this kid don't have the basic fundamentals that he would even need for me to help him be a college player. So I feel that yes, the high school experience has been lessened, but it's because a lot of the things that, especially, well, at least in Arizona, a lot of the things that high school coaches will do to kids, not playing the best kids, playing the kids who donate money to the booster club, not developing guys, having a guy that's 6'4" be a center his entire high school career and never letting him develop into a guard. So things like that make it to where guys that players will look forward to the AAU or just going to a prep school because now they can play in a college style program and they can actually prepare themselves for being in high school. Because there's very few programs that are high school programs that are actually going to prepare you for the college level.
Can I
I think
chime in
the
real
other
quick, Tone?
real fast, Ross. Hold on 1 second. I think another problem is, and Coach Reggie can attest to this. I think the fact that there's states where, in order to be a varsity head coach, you got to be a teacher. It's just flat out dumb. I
Well,
think, and I think that has a lot to do with it too, because there are a bunch of states, in the country where you have to be a teacher in order to be a head coach at the varsity level.
well,
You can coach JV or freshman, but at the varsity level, you have to be a teacher. Go ahead, Raj.
two things. I think the world, or the country at least, needs to get on even playing fields, right? So some states have shot clocks, some don't. Some have this rule, some don't. But to get back on top of the high school experience, and I know a lot of people and parents that do this. I'm not a parent yet, but I think part of the problem with the high school experience is a lot of parents are living through their kids. You have
Mm-hmm.
you got you have good players in Arizona or California, and more so Arizona that I've known, that are playing at a 1A level. To say my son, had 2,000 points in high school. My son won 3 state championships. My son was an MVP. You look at anybody's resume and you have 2,000 points in high school and you're a 3-time state champion and you don't have a scholarship offer, that's on you as a parent. That has nothing to do with the coach, because the resume speaks for itself, right? If I go to a 4A, 5A high school, I have 1,000 points. I'm a 2-time champion, 2-time MVP. I'm probably signing a letter of intent somewhere. But
Not
a lot of parents,
necessarily. Not
no, but I'm saying
necessarily, because I mean
not necessarily. But I'm saying
there's
there's
50 state champions every year. So
yes, but
and there's 10 kids. That means there's 500 kids that once win state every year in the country. 500
no,
kids
100%.
ain't getting
But
scholarships off that.
if you take out the 1A, 2A kids, like I'm not those kids to me. I have a kid that's playing at a high school right now at MVCA. The kid is good. The kid can play basketball. The kid shouldn't be playing at MVCA. He's averaging 35 points. Coaches don't care about that at the next level. So if your goal in the high school is for me to just pat my stats, to have all the accolades, to be an MVP, then yes, 1A is perfect. But the problem is parents come to AAU coaches with that 1A kid begging AAU coaches to get them to college, when in reality, they're still going to call that 1A coach and see who the hell you're playing. And if you're playing a bunch of scrubs that are, not basketball players, all the numbers, all that, it's blown smoke. So I'm not saying every kid that has that, but if you're a kid and you're talented enough to play big boy basketball, just like an AAU, if you're a 15-year-old kid and you're playing 14s, that's not doing anything for you but getting you numbers. And at the end of the day, they want to see what you're doing at that 17 level before they, or at least at your level, before they offer you a scholarship. They don't want to see you dominating, kids that aren't as good as you, just for your specific numbers. And I think a lot of parents, because you see a lot of posts on Instagram, my son's a 2-time MVP in this league. My son's this, my son's that. Well, your son has nothing to go for it after high school, and he's not a bad player. And I think there's enough schools in this country where if you're halfway decent, you can play somewhere.
Right.
So
Right.
whether it's D3, whether there's too many schools in the country that if you're decent, you can play somewhere.
Coach Reg, how do you feel about the transfer portal? What changes do you feel need to be made to the portal? You should have known I was coming at you with this one. What?
I know, I know,
How many
I
discussions
know.
have we had about this?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think the pros, cons, goods, bad changes need to be made? What they need to stick with? Just what's your overall thought of the transfer portal as it sits for basketball?
As it sits for basketball right now, I think it's the biggest, um, it's the biggest mirage out there for a lot of our young guys, because as we just talked about, if I don't like my situation where I'm at, I'm gonna go to the transfer portal. And little do they realize they're getting bad advice, because they go to the transfer portal and there are thousands of kids in the transfer portal, you know, and it's not a guarantee that you're going to find another spot, you
Right.
know. Um, and I think that's the one, they're not getting sound advice. Um, and two, um, you know, I kind of like it before when you used to transfer, you had to sit out.
Mhm.
So that made you really think that, you know, think about making a decision like that, you know. Um,
You like
and
that
what,
more than now?
yeah, I did like that because if you transferred knowing that you had to sit out, then there's really something to your situation other than the grass looks green on the other side, you know. And it's changed the way that college coaches can coach players now, you know, because I don't want to get on him and upset him because he might transfer.
Right.
We're talking about real good players, you know.
Right.
Um, like Coach Rodg was saying that, and that's what happens to that player that's a 1A, 2A, three-time state champion. He gets to college, and guess what? None of that means anything because the guys he lining up with, you know, are, a lot of times much better players, much
Right.
more well-rounded players, because that's one thing to say, hey, I got my stats, but can you play with four other guys that can play?
Yeah.
You know, how do you fit into that system? Because you ain't gonna come in from high school 1A, 2A and come to a college program and all of a sudden be the guy. That ain't gonna happen.
Right. Right.
You know, how do you be able to, like you say, contribute to it? You know, and a lot of times they don't because they just used to always say, I do what I want. People give me the ball, let me make
Let
whatever,
me go.
take what, yeah.
Let Russ cook. What about you,
Yeah, exactly.
Jay? How you feel about the transfer portal as it relates to the discussion?
I think it's good, and I think it's good. There's obviously negative of it, but like I mean, there's two sides of it. There's one side of it where, obviously, guys are, I guess, overusing it. But anything that, I guess, any rule that you have, there's going to be people that are going to bend the rule. Um, so I mean, I look at it as obviously there's probably way too many guys in the transfer portal. It definitely hurts the high school kids now because
Yes.
now you got to
Yeah.
be a better, more polished product to get it, to be able to get on as a high school player. From the side of a former college player, the good of it is I think, and I know way too many guys that have a story that is similar where they can say this to where it's not maybe coincidental. Is now when a kid transfer, they're not labeled as a head case. I remember when I came up,
Mm-hmm.
and if you transfer to school, like if you went to a school and then you transferred, you are now considered a head case. Well, why this guy transferred? Now, let's say there's okay, our middle school director, Otis Frazier, his son was at George Mason a couple of years ago. I'm sure you're familiar with Otis. I know you are, Tony. I'm sure you probably
Mm-hmm.
are.
Left-handed dude, right?
Yeah, Otis was at George Mason. He
Yeah,
had
he's a
went
left-handed cat, right?
left-handed kid, about 6'6".
Yeah.
Now he had
Yeah.
went to
Yeah.
a prep school on the East Coast, so we ended up at George Mason. But he wasn't playing. He was sitting on the bench there. He's at UTEP there. He's at UTEP now. He's got an NIL deal. He's averaging about 14 a game, and he's thriving there. And he's also a lot closer to home. So I look at it. There's bad experiences, but then I look at like I know Otis, and I know So now Otis gets to go to games regularly. Like he was just in El Paso last Thursday. So
Mm-hmm.
now there's that side of it. So if your kid goes to school, let's say your kid only school that offers your kid is in, you live in California, the only school that offers your kid is in Pennsylvania. So what is your kid gonna do? He wants to continue living his dream. He's gonna take the one scholarship offer that he has. Now he plays good. Sometimes he can play himself into a better situation, and now he can
Mm-hmm.
play himself, and now maybe he can go to school in California, and now his family can see him play. So there's that.
You almost treated like a JUCO.
What's that now?
I said you can treat it just like a JUCO.
So yeah, exactly. So I see it from a player's perspective is sometimes as coming out of high school, you have to take what you can get. You know what I mean? You have to take whatever
Mm-hmm.
Right.
is presented to you. And then now, if you play a year or two and you play yourself into a better situation, now maybe you can reevaluate and now you maybe have some different options. Now that doesn't work for everybody. That's the player that can go to college and is usually successful as a freshman, a sophomore, and now they can think about moving on. But the average guy probably, maybe that's not their path for the average player. But I do like the fact that it is available, and now you're not branded as a head case or a problem player, or you can kind of do what's best for you now, as opposed to when I came out 20 years ago, you were just doing what was best for the coach and what was best for the
Right.
program. And it was all about if you didn't do what was best for the program, you were the bad guy. And
Right.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Go ahead, Raj.
Well, so piggyback off both of you guys before I get started. The point about the sitting out if they transfer. I didn't mind that at first, but the only thing I did not like about that is that coaches can leave and coach tomorrow, right? Coaches leave these kids after having these relationships and to go better themselves and get more money, and then they get to coach the next game or whatever the case may be, while the kid had to sit out for a year for bettering his situation. Now, to Jay's point, I think the one notion that I don't like about it is that it hurts the high school kid, right? I think there are high school kids that are ready to play, and if you're not a 4 or 5 star kid, it's probably curtains for you for a little bit. You got to be that dude. But I think the notion that the tough conversations that need to happen are, it's not just D1 or bust, right? So, if that kid has an offer in Pennsylvania, yes, that's probably a Division I. You want to live out your dream. You have a really good Division II that wants you, that you're going to go play right away, that you're going to be the guy, you're going to go do all that stuff you want to do. Kids need to jump at that opportunity as well, right? Like, a lot of these kids don't understand. You can still go D2, D3, and get overseas and have a great, successful college career, post-college career. But I think they're doing okay with the portal right now. I wanted to put a cap on it, though. You got some guys that transferred 3 times, 4 different schools. There's guys that do it 4 times and they're 25 years old. I think it needs to be a cap because it's not fair to the 3-star in high school that could go there, but you have this 26-year-old guy that's transferring for the 3rd time because of COVID.
What do you think the cap? What do you think the cap should be?
I
2
think you should be able.
transfers.
I think you transfer 1 time, you can play. 2nd time, you got to sit out,
Right.
and that's
Like
it.
that.
And then if you transfer 3 times, there's no 3 times. You're done. That's it. But no, you got.
He's gonna be
Hey,
about 5 times, bro.
there's a couple of kids I know right now, Tone, from Corona that this dude was at U of A, Kentucky, Fresno State.
Those are not kids no more, bro.
Well, there's this. He's on his 5th year in New Mexico now. He's been to 5 schools though, and it's just like,
see, he shouldn't be allowed to play.
I'm conflicted because, like, for me, if this rule was in play, I would 100% have my degree. I would have just kept transferring until I graduated. So I can't, like, how can I really knock it? Like, I would have just, okay, let me go over here. Okay, I'm gonna go over here now. Get 1 more year. Go over here. Get 24
and with NIL,
go over here. Get
NIL, right?
And I would have probably 2, 3 degrees.
That was my next question.
But
that was my next question, Raj. The NILs.
Yes, and I think that is good, but I think they need to change that as well.
Let me tell you what the question is, and this question gonna be for all 3 of you. Give me 2 pros, 2 cons to the NIL. Raj, you go ahead and start since you've already started.
2 pros. I mean, the kids get to market themselves, right? Like like I said, Jared McCain's a millionaire. He's not in a rush to go to the pros right now because he's making money. On the WNBA side, they make more money than they will in the WNBA, so I'm not in a rush to get there. I can brand myself. You can have your own brand. I don't have to be just for the school now, right? They got video games now, jersey sales, ticket sales. Cons, I really wouldn't say too many cons, and people don't like the way I word it. But I with what Jay just said, right? I think NIL should be an option. If you're gonna take NIL deal, you need to stay more than 1 year. You need to get your degree at least. You have to get your degree. If you're one and done, you're gonna get your money anyway. But I think what he's saying is when you got so many guys that can transfer over and over and over and over, they can collect a check in every stop and not be worried about anything
Mm-hmm.
else, right? So, we got a kid in New Mexico right now. He's getting $210,000 NIL deal. He deserves it. He's a sophomore. He's good. But if he's just there to collect that check, not really worried about basketball no more, well, I'm going to transfer and go to the next spot where I get more NIL. I think they can get tricky there. So I think if you accept NIL, you have to get your degree. If you're going to the NBA, you're going to get your money anyways. So it got to be one of the two. Because
Well,
at the end of the day, the school is still paying for those guys to go to school. Like Baycott,
well,
to me, Baycott's a joke right now. I'm not a North Carolina fan, but like
Armando Baycott.
he should have been gone. Drew Timmy, you should have been gone, bro. Like you're here because you're collecting this damn check.
He not still at
No, he finally
Gonzaga.
left. He finally left, but I mean, he could have been an overseas pro 2 years ago.
Well, R.J. Davis giving people 40.
Right? Hey, I'd hope so. You've been there long enough.
Coach Rez, what's your pros and cons of the NIL structure as it sits right now?
Well, for one thing, I'm a big, yes guy about the NIL. I'm glad to see that guys can finally get some money because the longest knock has always been on them that they say, well, you're getting your degree. But, the things that we as college programs put student athletes through, they can't get a job anyway. So, might as well use that as a way to, because, like Coach Rodg was just saying, some of these guys, they home like, you know,
Right.
yes, they need the money, So if NIL is a way for them to do that, then I'm all for it, and like Coach said, it's a way for them to market themselves beyond the sport, Um,
Are you seeing
the,
NIL deals at the D2 level?
we're seeing them here, not at the level that D1s, but D2s are definitely getting some NIL. They're mostly, most of the time they're more um, local economy type things
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah.
Like the
businesses
local car dealership or something like that?
businesses are starting to snatch them up as in, hey, and it's like anything. I you know car dealership say I might not be able to afford a D1 guy, but let me go get a D2 guy. You
Yep.
know, you
Do you
know.
think it'll be better if they had if we had an even number though?
Yeah, it
So
will
like,
be.
hey,
It will.
Division One, you guys have $10 million to spend. Like, because right now, like that's why Saban quit, right? All right,
Right.
Deion Sanders is about to get whoever the hell he wants because he's Deion. NILs are about to go straight to Colorado, and
Yep.
I don't
And
think it's fair.
Colorado got a lot of oil money too.
Right, and I don't think it's fair for schools like a Cal when you just can't compete with that. Like
Right.
your
Right.
NIL is not going to match what these other NILs can match.
So
I
you're
Right.
think,
basically buying
but I
players.
think that it's always been that way. It's just been under the table. Like for example,
Yeah,
I got boys that like for example, I got boys that played at U of A, right? And they had cars that from Jim Click dealerships, and you switch out your car every 2 3 weeks. So
yeah,
this has been a thing. Like you play at like my boy played football at Montana State. He told me like we didn't pay for nothing the whole time we was there 4 years. Any bar
yeah,
we went to, everything was free. Any store we went to, so it's there's been money.
yeah. That's true.
There's been money that's been changing hands. It's just been on a
Yeah,
certain level. I would say
Yeah,
Right.
like
but when you can do it legally,
yeah, you can
it
do it.
opens the floodgates.
I would say
100%.
Yeah.
I would say that as soon as you start selling tickets for college games, you really open the floodgates. So I would say that with this being a business, with like I remember when the Pac-12 expanded, it was so they could get more money for the TV deal. I think the TV deal went from like 20 million to 30 million a year. So that was a 10-year deal, 10, 15-year deal. So you gotta think that was a $300 million that each team got just from the TV deal. Now that's not even including the money that Nike or Adidas giving. So that's
Yep.
not including the shoe money. You're talking about $300 million over a 10-year period, and this has been going on for 50, for years. So it's
Oh
only
yeah,
right. It's only right.
agree with that.
It's only right that the kids should be able to get paid. I don't think there should be no zero stipulations on it. If the coaches are getting paid, the school's getting paid, y'all getting a new library, y'all got a new TV contract, the school benefits from it. The kid should be able to benefit from it because everybody's not going to be an NBA player. Some of these kids,
I agree with that.
yeah,
I
everybody's
Well,
think
not going to be an NBA player.
my whole thing is the only thing I disagree with is if when you can just say, okay, well, Cal's going to give you 500, we're going to give you 750.
yep.
That's the only part. I'm
But that's
cool.
no
I'm
different.
great with. But
But
I'm
that's no
great with them
different.
getting they.
My
I'm
fault.
talking about. I'm talking about. I'm saying I'm great with them getting that 750. Look at this clown eat.
My bad, man. Let's go to the
Clown.
crib.
Hey, I'm great with them getting the 750 grand. That's cool. I'm just saying, like Rod said, now there's certain schools that can't compete on the court
But
because
Well,
of
but
NIL.
but think
I
about
would
it
say
like
this,
this.
Tone.
Okay, what about the coach from Florida Gulf Coast that left and went to USC because USC offered him $3 million, he was making 800,000. That's no different than the kid that's got an NIL deal for maybe 50,000. Somebody offers him 500,000, and he's like, "Well, I gotta go." It's no different. If you making 800,000, somebody offers you $3 million, you're like, "All right, I'm moving to California. I'm coaching at USC now."
What do
I'm
you
not disagreeing with any of that.
do? You
I would go too. I would do the same thing. I'm saying the on the court part of
do you think it should dip into high school? Because
What
it
happened?
does. Do you think it's okay dipping into high school?
What do you mean by that? By that?
I mean, like Jared McCain had 4 NIL deals as a senior in high school. He was getting paid from 4 different companies as a senior in high school.
So he's saying should high school kids receive lucrative NIL deals?
St. John Bosco's whole football team gets a per diem check after every football game, right? So any high school in California, Centennial's good as hell at football. I can't compete with these guys if a high school student if your whole team is getting a goddamn NIL deal. Like,
And at a private school at that.
right. So it's like, every kid on their team gets a check after the game. Here you go. This is from GMC dealer or whoever the hell it's from. So you got so many kids that are transferring there just to get a damn check. But I'll say
Must be the
this: they
money.
better
It
be.
must be the money.
Hey, Tone,
Dion.
Tone. I know you ain't a fan of this dude, but they better be lucky the NIL wasn't around when the Ball Brothers was hot, because they had to broke the
Oh, I
damn
Yeah.
bank.
know. I know. Yes. It would have been bad. It
They
would
had to
have been.
broke the bank.
And then LeVar would have. You think LeVar was obnoxious now?
Hey, they had to broke the bank.
Jeez, man. So let me ask y'all one more question before I let y'all go. Um, since all of us kind of have this in common, do you think we should start gearing and talking to kids at a younger age about getting into coaching, and instead of just trying to get that offer, trying to get that playing? I thought about this today, and I wanted to see what you guys thought, because I know, to be honest with you, um, I probably only pushed one kid two kids that I thought would be a good coach. And I'm sure if I paid attention more, I probably could have found like Raj with you and Cashew. I'd have never thought Cashew would have been anywhere close to being a high school coach. So, Coach Reg, I'll start with you. What's your thoughts on as far as us as when we see a kid, especially at the high school level, and we identify a kid as having a good IQ, he has good mannerism, good leadership skills. Maybe that kid, we ought to talk to that kid about getting into coaching. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think a lot of times that's a great idea. But I think a lot of times it's hard for even the kid to even see that, you know, because they look at it as
No,
um, they look at it as something way down in the future.
Like
You
at
know what I
the
mean?
oh, okay,
You know,
okay.
they like, why are you talking to me about this now? And I, you know, I got to go to college. I got to do this. When the truth of the matter is, you're actually helping them out, you know,
Right,
because if they want to be at quote unquote that high profile level as a coach, they have to start early, you know,
right.
you know, um, and you're right. That's something that we need to do, but also us
Thank you.
coaches on all coaches on the college side got to be receptive to that. Got to, have programs for them, and be looking for that younger talent to develop,
Hmm.
because that becomes a recruiting thing itself,
Right, right.
you know. So
Coach Daniels, what do you think?
I think yeah, and then no. Yeah, I mean, well, because it's like it's hard to like tell a kid that you go into coaching when his mind is like, yo, I'm trying to go D1. He like, man, I ain't trying to hear that, coach. Like I still got years left. Like I coach when I'm,
Well, I do know this, Jack. If you're talking to a kid, I know you. If if you're talking to a kid about coaching, he ain't D1.
yep,
It ain't both of them, bro. It's
yeah,
one or
yeah,
the
yeah,
other.
yeah,
It ain't
yeah.
both of them. It ain't both of them, man. Raj, what's your take on that?
It goes back to relationships for me, right? So my coach talked to me when I was a senior, told me, I think you're going to be a hell of a coach one day. I think you're looking to doing this. I think just has honest conversations, right? If it's a Division I player, we're probably not having that conversation. Yeah,
Right, right,
if it's somebody chasing a Division I dream that we know you're not D1, then you're not D2. Um, Probably not a college basketball player. I think that's fine. But I think part of the problem with coaching is that we feed into that BS sometimes as well, though. Trying to help a kid get to a D1 when we know in the back of our minds, like like you said, Cashew. He's not a college basketball player. We can all
right,
say that. That doesn't mean your career has to stop though. So I just think it's about having that relationship. And if you have the relationship, like I said, me and you can talk about anything, Tone. So I'm not going to take what you say negative, even if I need to hear that. So
right.
I think it's just based off having that relationship and being comfortable with your players and knowing them and them trusting what you're telling them. So I
It's
think it needs
funny.
to happen though.
It's funny you mention relationships because uh, we're kind of on this session because of relationships. AJ established a great relationship with Coach Reggie. My relationship with Coach Daniels trickled down to my relationship to a relationship with Coach Raj. Me and Raj been boys since he was about 19 years old when he was a JV coach over at Corona Centennial, and my kid was there. So it's all everything that's you mentioned relationships, and it's everything. Even this call, even this podcast show, this episode is based on relationships. So what I would like, because I trust and cherish each of you, I'm gonna make sure that each one of y'all got each other's number. So y'all can, Jay, I know you got that AAU program. You may want to bounce some stuff off of Coach Reg from a college perspective, and same thing with you, Ross. You may
Yep.
have a kid you want Coach Reg to look at. So that way, I don't have you guys. You guys can reach out to each other. I'm sure Coach Reggie don't mind as long as you
no,
don't bug. As
not
long as you don't bug him like I do. So, but I'm gonna do that. When we get off here, man, I want to thank each one of you for giving me a little bit of time this afternoon. I think it's important for some of the other basketball people in our community, hear some of the stuff we talked about, because what I take from it is that we talked about a lot of realism,
Yep.
like what's being, as the kids say, what's keeping it a buck. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's if that message comes out of this episode, I'd be greatly appreciative. I'd be greatly happy about that. So I'm appreciative to each one of you, Coach Jay, Coach Reggie, Coach Raj. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Chronic OGs episode. I'm that boy they call Big Tone. I'm out.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, fellas.
Yes, sir,
Right.
bro.
I'm gonna work on this tonight and get it out to y'all. As soon as I finish, I'll get the link out to you.
All right,
Right.
that sounds good.
Thanks, fellas.
Right.
Right.
All right, Coach Reg.
All right. Later.